Hello, hi, it is I, Serendipity Weird, coming for a little bit of an update. Um, it's been, I don't know, I feel like I've been both like really busy and not busy at all. It's a really kind of strange juxtaposition. But if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen a post I made recently, which was like the first post in weeks about I'm distracted by the chickens in the yard about my food stuff because currently I am in the preparatory stages for the radioactive iodine treatment to help eradicate any remaining traces of thyroid cancer in my body, any remaining thyroid cells in my body. So, in order to prepare for this treatment, I am on a low iodine diet. What in the world is that? Well, that means trying to limit the amount of iodine that I take in with, to my non medical understanding, that they will give me a whole dose of radioactive iodine, and we want my cells, especially any remaining thyroid cells, to be able to just want to soak up that iodine immediately because that's the one cell in the body that really likes iodine, right? Is the thyroid cell, which is part of the reason why people don't really freak out about the concept of thyroid cancer, apparently, is because it's fairly easy to treat, given that if you cut out the thyroid, right, like I had the surgery, is gone, we got a cool scar, then you can flood the body with radioactive iodine, killing any remaining cells if that's deemed to be necessary, which in my case it is. So the prep for this is a low iodine diet. Okay, cool. What in the world does that mean though? Like, what? So I've been told to not take like any supplementation whatsoever, basically just my medication. But then as far as food goes, the biggest piece of this puzzle, there's there's a lot of moving parts to this, but the biggest piece is regular salt, because salt, at least in America, is iodized because bodies actually do need iodine. So an easy way, I don't know the history of this, I could look it up, but I haven't yet. Um, but basically, most salt is supplemented with iodine. So, step one is either don't use salt at all, which I did for like 3 days, and that was kind of not fun, or procure a non iodized, preferably also non sea salt, because anything sea based also has the risk of higher levels of iodine, right? So, seafood and stuff is another thing to avoid, but we'll get to that. So, Himalayan pink salt, non iodized Himalayan pink salt is where we're at currently. All right, cool. So, we solved that little piece. The other things to absolutely avoid: no egg yolk. So, egg whites, okay, no egg yolk. Limiting sort of meat consumption in general. No, this is like where it actually gets. Oh, and no seafood, which in my world really doesn't matter. I very rarely eat seafood based things anyway. Even like seaweed and stuff like that counts. If it's in the sea, it could be, have a much higher iodine count than would be helpful to this process. Cool. All right. So the two things that are actually much more challenging for me. So I don't know if I ever really talked about it. I did put it in my Instagram post, but from throughout all of 2023 and then literally until my surgery, and I was in the hospital afterwards, through this year. So for like 1 3/4 years, I was ovo-lacto vegetarian. So I was still, I was not fully plant-based or anything. I still utilized dairy. I still utilized eggs. So removing, like having egg yolk off the table is kind of like to me, because I actually generally consume eggs fairly often, and I'm not super excited by egg whites, but I've used them in fried rices lately. But oh my gosh, dairy and cheese have been a huge staple of my diet for some time, like my whole life. Like, we often joke around about how, you could fascinate me with a slice of cheese, and pizza being one of my main food groups. Although, interestingly, ever since the surgery, I really haven't cared about pizza in the way I did before. I no idea why that is. Not that like I don't like pizza, but it's not like an everyday where I would be like, I need food. Pizza would be a good option. So that was a very kind of interesting change. But so I thought at first, when I was kind of looking into what does a low iodine diet require, which, by the way, so I've been doing all of this research solely on my own because I did request the information from my endocrinologist that they had on a low iodine diet, but I've yet to receive that. The regional cancer center that I'm going to also supplied nothing. And that the actual process of the treatment is in two different facilities. So I will be getting infusions from one facility of a medication that I believe, again, I've like really no idea about this process, which is pretty frustrating. I've looked up the medication that's used for the infusions, and that has kind of made me convinced, from what I can glean from the producer's site, that is not like the radioactive portion in and of itself. That is a preparatory medication that potentially floods my system with like thyroid hormone / makes my thyroid, like any remaining cells, really interested in uptaking iodine. Again, I don't know the specifics on how this works because no one has told me. And then after 2 days of infusions, I go, if you hear any side tangent, if you hear any whining, the dogs are out here on the porch with me. So after 2 days of infusions, then I go to the nuclear medicine space at one of the nearby hospitals, and they administer the pill, the radioactive iodine pill. At least, again, that's what I assume from how it's scheduled. Okay? Because again, like when I spoke with the scheduling person for this whole process, she was from the place where they do the infusions and did not have all of the details. And she was like, "Oh, they will give you all the requirements for their requirements when you go to take the pill." And so I was like, well, that's really helpful considering things I have heard, including having talked with somebody. We are so tangented away from the food bit, but that's okay. From somebody I know whose partner has undergone this process, and I did have the opportunity, like directly after my surgery, to meet with them and hear their experiences and whatnot. That due to, and also the research I've done, taking the radioactive iodine is going to make it to where I need to quarantine away from people, especially small children, pregnant people, because I will be there will be radiation in my body that could be not great for other humans. I mean, honestly, it's not great for me, but it is great for me if it's killing any remaining cancer cells, right? Anywho, so I've been trying to do all of this like preparation for this process with not really knowing what the recommendations are or how frustration bubbling up in tears and emotions. Taking a deep breath and another. Everybody acts like it's not like that big of a deal from the medical side, right? Like, and I can understand that because, like, this is the everyday if you're administering these things, but, like, I don't know. It's what I'm trying to put my thoughts into some semblance of, an organized structure here. But here's the thing, like, it's really frustrating to have to do all of the legwork oneself. Like, I know from the research I've done that we're going to need to quarantine me for some amount of time. A week or so is my understanding, maybe. I receive the pill, and then a week later I go back for a whole body scan. That's really loud. Hello, helicopter. I go back for a whole body scan where presumably they will be able to see if there's any remaining or where there may be remaining cancer cells. Again, not really sure because no one's explained this. That being said, I do, as of today, have an appointment with one of the people at my endocrinologist's practice now the day before I take the pill because of blood work that I just had done. So that's helpful because I feel like I can ask some of these questions that I've come up with. But it doesn't change the fact that it's really, really, really frustrating to not have information. And I mean, I suppose I could call and harass people, but that's not a comfortable thing for me. Just trying to see if we were going to have other really loud noises. And I'm like, all of this also comes to me from a standpoint of like, if I wasn't a person who knew how to look up information and assess like reasonable, probably truthful sources of information on yield jujel, and if I wasn't a person who had a great amount of luxury and privilege to be able to like change around my work schedules and because I don't like primarily I'm homemaker at home, right? So like it's on that way, like my time is mostly available currently. If I didn't have those abilities and skill set, like we're going to get into the skill set in a minute when I get back to the food pieces, and like the home that my partner has worked really hard to secure for us and to keep for us and to pay for us and everything, like how would I even deal with any of this? How would I? Because if we have to quarantine me in a space for a week, separate bathroom and all that kind of stuff, because the thing is, if I have radiation coursing through my veins, any bodily fluids, saliva, whatever, potentially is harmful to the other people, the pets, the other living beings in the house. So I'm feeling incredibly grateful that we have a home that's set up as there's one, like the largest bedroom is has an attached bathroom in it. It does mean I have to kick my partner out of his space. Luckily, he's willing to do that to make everything, easier for the household. That way I'm not potentially sharing a bathroom with other folks. But that has involved moving things around in the house, dealing with some of my like clutter and mess. Like it's really been a lot. Okay? It's been a lot. That's all. It's been a lot. And so many things that, and then like there's part of me that's like, I don't even know how important the preparations I'm making are because no one has told me what to expect or what is recommended. So frustration. But whatever. What we're preparing for is to basically, isolate me in a room that has an attached bathroom where there are sinks that I can wash dishes, so that nobody's coming in, until the radiation half-life sort of passes or we have the all clear or whatever. I get the details of all of this when I go to take the pill. Like, that's what I was told on the phone with scheduling. And I was like, that makes very little sense, because if I didn't have knowledge up front, how would I even prepare for that? Right? Like, it's just... Okay, we're kind of done with that rant now. To make things more interesting, complicated, for the fact that these things are happening very soon, is that my partners are out of town. They're out of town doing work things. So this past weekend was like a mad dash of trying to settle a bunch of things, because they'll get home the day before the actual radiation portion of this whole thing. And so it was basically everything that we would need to kind of settle prior, which is good because some of that's done now and it's not going to lead to procrastination up until the moment of, and then freak out time, right? But back to the food. So besides all the other things in terms of what I think I know from research and what I don't know from I don't know because I haven't actually been given recommendations, I do know that in order to undergo this treatment, because it's been mentioned partially, but I was told I would get the details from the cancer center, which did not happen. And there's the mad dash of trying to actually get this scheduled by the end of the year because insurance reasons and deductibles and blah, 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 blah. All of that crap. So perhaps if there was not the same, December 31st is right around the corner and then all of our deductibles are going to reset, blah, 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 on that front, maybe there would be more time for figuring this out a little bit. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. To prep for this whole thing, you have to be on a low-iodine diet. That's really the point here. That's what I came to talk about. And the low-iodine diet, like I said, primarily, first and foremost, avoiding salt. Avoiding iodized salt. Hello, lizard. We see lizard. I can't finger, point. There we go. Lizard. Okay, so cool. Except, fun fact, did you know? Fun fact. Almost everything that you find in a grocery store that is not just an ingredient, right? Produce, whatever, has added salt in it. And there's no way that I can verify if that added salt is iodized salt or not, which you have to assume it is, right? You have to assume it is. So that means no prepared food of any kind, right? No restaurant or takeout food of any kind. No prepared food also means things like bread. Luckily, this is where the skill sets come in, where I'm privileged to have developed some skill sets over time that make this definitely more of a thing that can be almost quasi-fun, almost I'm on a sacred quest, versus oh my God, this is awful. How am I going to survive these couple of weeks prior to this treatment? Because it's a couple of weeks, then treatment, then you maintain the diet throughout, I believe. Again, no one has confirmed this, um, until after the scan. That's my understanding, is it has to be maintained until after the scan. So, um, yeah, so I've been making a lot of things like completely from scratch. Um, with some, generally the routine-ish sort of thing that I'm doing is I generally make some overnight oats the night before, because then there's food in the morning for when I'm ready to consume something. And then try to keep kind of a vegan-y, um, vegetarian, plant-based sort of lunch, and then like have a little bit of a meat situation at dinner. Um, but it's basically like hours in the kitchen every day, which I'm sure could be like less so, right? Like I'm sure that if I were better skilled at meal prepping, coming up with like a food plan, pre-prepping some ingredients, stuff like that, it wouldn't have to be as much. But you know, I'm not, right? Like I'm a weird but fairly average-ish human American person, I think, who is used to like stopping at a fast food restaurant, if one is out and about for the day. So like that's a whole thing. Now I've been having to think of like, okay, I'm going to be out of the house all day. Let me make sure I have like baby carrots or, cucumber slices, like some sort of banana, like some snacky food, because there's no way that I can stop and obtain food anywhere besides going to like a grocery store and buying a banana or something. And this sounds so weird to I'm complaining, but I'm also, hello rooster. I'm complaining, but I'm not complaining, to be honest, because like I have wanted these skills. I have not wanted to depend on pre-prepped food. I know it's not great for me. I know it's not healthy for me. I know if I'm ever going to like slim down some and be a healthier version of myself, like those foods do not contribute to this kind of thing. So on that note, like I very much welcome this whole like these limitations that are forcing me to learn new habits that I have not had to learn in the past, or that I've lost because of, just hectic like American life. But that takes me back to like this whole privilege thing. If I didn't have time, like how would I be doing this? Anyway, so things that I've learned to make over the past amount of time that I've been doing this, I've learned to make rice milk, oat milk, overnight oats, hummus from scratch, chimichurri sauce, Italian dressing, mustard. That was an add-on the other day. I already knew how to make bread, so I can't really count that. I did make burger buns the other day, which I was not super impressed by, but I also used a recipe I'm not used to. They were just like way denser than I cared for. How to cook without soy sauce. Oh, because, okay, I don't think I finished the limitations thing. Because I'm scattered and I'm all over the place because it's me. Yay! Okay, so no iodized salt, we already covered that. No sea-based anything, covered that. No egg yolk, covered that. No dairy, which is interesting, but I'm not super opposed to. It's just like, that's where learning like how to make rice milk, how to make oat milk has come into play. Oh, cashew cheese. I made a cashew cheese the other day. But again, like all of these food pieces are like expensive. Like cashews are not inexpensive, right? And we're only trying to feed me, because I'm not trying to like do this and push it all on the rest of the household. So I'm basically just making food for me. And because that's made it a lot easier for my brain to be able to deal with. It's just, whew. Okay, so cashew cheese, we did that. So no dairy. That has been weird because that's not, other than like, I did 1 month of like vegan specific plant based several years ago, maybe like 2019, 2018, something like that. I think I was still working at the time, pre mental health crisis stuff. Um, I think. So quite some time ago. But that was like 30 days. I was just like, I'm going to do this for May. That's what we're doing. Um, so yeah, really what I thought that would kind of be a struggle point, right? I thought the dairy piece was going to be sort of the confusing part for me because it's not something I really have a lot of background skill set in. But it turns out it's the no soy that is like, huh? What do I do now? Because no soy does not just mean like, oh, stop eating tofu for a couple weeks. It also means no soy sauce, which shifts like sort of a lot of things that I cook. And so that's been really interesting in helping me learn new flavor profiles, learn new ways to spice things. So on that way, like this whole thing is kind of cool because it's a lot of like good learning opportunity, but it's also just like, oh my god, so much. And having to make sure I prepare things in advance because I don't know if you've ever cooked a loaf of bread. Have you ever baked bread? I don't know. Maybe you have. Maybe you haven't. But I'm here to tell you that you're going to need at least a minimum of like 2 hours. At least. Because you're going to put your dough together. You're going to work it to increase the glutens and to get it to where it's ready to rise. Hi, Pupper. And then you're going to let it rise. And that rising process, depending on the amount of yeast you've used, depending on the recipe you're following, etc., could be an hour-ish, could be half of the day. Most canned things are out unless I went like to... I'm sure I could find no salt added canned items. I believe they exist, right? Like beans and vegetables and things. But I'm trying not to explode the grocery budget any more than we already need to. So frozen is generally safe. Although I did find one of our bags of frozen veggies that's like, oh, this is kind of a fancy blend of some stuff. Maybe I'll make that. And I look at the ingredients list and I'm like, sea salt. Okay, can't use those frozen veggies. Luckily, all our other frozen veggies are not randomly containing salt. So I've been sticking with like frozen veggies. But yeah, it's weird because it's like I've made sort of fried rice like several times, but without any sort of flavoring profile that I would normally add to it, right? Like I just made rice and then I put a lot of vegetables in it and like a little bit of cut up chicken or something. But there's no soy sauce to add to it. And so I was on a like sort of, well, okay, people are allergic to soy. Like there have to be options out there. How do people make like a soy-free soy sauce? Like how do you get that umami sort of flavor? And I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole with that. Most of the suggestions that were like, I was excited because I found this concept about like coconut aminos. And I was like, okay, I have no knowledge of this. Maybe I can pick some up. Go to the store, look at it, and it's like sea salt. So I'm like, okay, no, again, we have struck out on the easy option. I did find recipes for like making one's own soy-free soy sauce kind of thing. Have not attempted that yet. Interestingly, MSG is not affected by the restrictions, which is very, while controversial in terms of like, does it harm people, which is all like mostly been debunked, but also some people do seem to have sensitivities to it. So I don't know. but is praised for its umami flavor, right? That like savory sort of flavor. But I haven't experimented with that either. I feel like overall, I'm eating really well. At first, I don't feel like I was eating enough because, like, I was really lethargic. I was having a lot of weird muscle cramping also, which since I reintroduced, like, since I got the non iodized pink Himalayan salt and reintroduced that to my diet, um, the cramping has somewhat subsided. Yay! And I upped my water intake. I think I was really dehydrated. But it's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm like, I'm over here, like, actually eating to, like, fuel my body. Interesting concept, right? And I don't know. It's just, I wanted to keep some sort of a record of this process. Because this is, like, huge in my life. And so, I don't know. This is the diary about that. I intend to record some more of my thoughts as I go further through the process, but that's where we're at right now. I'm going to cook dinner soon, making French fries from scratch. Have to peel the potatoes because skins on potatoes are a no-go. So peel the potatoes, cut them up on all of that. And then I have some fancy steak from Costco that seems, is Costco fancy? In my world, Costco is fancy. That I've made like a marinade kind of deal with, and it's been resting, and I'm excited to kind of cook that up and share it with a friend because the boys left town, and now I have too much steak for me to be like really that I should eat over the next couple days, like before they get back. And a salad, like I made Italian dressing from scratch last night, so that was kind of cool. I can also so I find it funny because when we think diet, right, we think like we're changing the way we eat in order to lose weight. Like that's the outcome of the diet, right? At least historically in my life, that's kind of where that word has existed. And I don't have a great relationship with that word, and I really don't want anything to do with that word in that context. But normally, right, like the restrictions we think of are about limiting like fat or limiting carbs or limiting sugar, because sugar is a carb. Nordy, come here, buddy. You want to come here? Is a pupper. Say hello. This is a Nordy. Hello. And like sugar is like the one thing that is absolutely like not restricted. Like it even says in the things I've read that like basically like sodas are fine as long as they don't have a red 3 dye in it because you have to avoid red 3. And like alcohol is fine if that's within the context of what your doctor, says is okay for you and that sort of thing. So it kind of cracks me up that I am making, like, I am participating in incredible food restriction things while still being allowed things that normally when the word diet comes up are like absolute no's. It's really weird to me. It kind of makes me laugh, kind of makes me giggle. I baked sugar cookies without butter because no dairy. And they were okay. Like they filled the need. Like I think I should have sifted the flour, I think. Like, I don't know. They were not my best baking, but they were edible. And that's also been an important lesson in this process is not everything that I am making to fuel myself has been 100% knock out of the park, best thing I've ever created food-wise. However, it has all been edible. Even when I wasn't eating any salt at all, like it was still edible. It was real weird because like that was a whole, piece of the flavor that was missing. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm here for this because I'm going to do this as well as I can to try to make the therapy, the treatment, as successful as possible. Because ultimately, I would like to live a very long time beyond now. So that's where we're at. That's what we're doing. I've already rambled about this for 35 minutes. I'm so sorry about the helicopter sound in the middle, but I'm not editing this. I'm just going to upload it right now. So that's what we're going to do. Lots of love to you. And I will hopefully talk to you again sometime in the next week or so, because I feel like we'll have more updates about this process. So talk again soon. I hope everything is going great for you. I hope that you are having a fantastic holiday season, that Thanksgiving time treated you well, whatever you do with that you are surviving as best you can with whatever struggles are persisting in your life, and that you can find some places to find a little bit of levity and brevity and a little bit of humor in the struggles if they're there. And that you're doing okay. I hope you're doing okay. I really do. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye.